I can't turn down the volume. It's pretty loud. Nope. Jackson. Are we on yet, Mark?
Time for satsang, Edgy.
I need my prompt. How are you all? The funny thing is, I've been teaching all these years, but there's so much in spirituality and in Zen that it amounts to knowing various systems, not unlike various systems of philosophy or engineering or economics. And in a large sense, spirituality can most turn out to be mostly just talking words that make you feel good or that elevate you or do something. But what I want to point out is there is a different way of living altogether. Where you don't live life as a continuous set of transactions, of getting things, being loved or loving. And that's when you begin to turn your attention inward instead of outward into what we want. Only someone who loves you or thinks they can get something from you are interested in what you want. So you too shouldn't be too interested in what you want. And instead, focus intention on your cat, as Eric is doing, or what we are. Wanting is a verb. Are or is not. It's a state of being. And what we do here is invite you to relax your mind and instead collapse your awareness into yourself, beginning an investigation of an inner life. But that investigation can take all of your life, or it may take 20 years before you've had enough. When do you stop looking inside and checking your feelings? After a while, that becomes as boring as watching an economist on the television talk about the economic collapse of Ukraine or something or other. I took life really as an academic game for many, many years. because I didn't have the slightest idea what I wanted to do. Sometimes I put on the robes of a doer just to feel what it was like. But it seemed to me that the things of the world were kind of trivial. They're based on our value system, what we like to do, what we value, who we tend to choose as people close to us. All of these things seemed academic to me, or rather academic, and rather distant from my own core of who or what I am. So I've always been attracted to teachers, like Philip Keplo, my first live teacher, who investigated what he was, and also getting rid of all the ideas he had before that of the nature of the world or what he wanted. You go to school for 12 years, 14, 16, 18, something like that. And then when you're well rested in being a person in a certain niche in life, you begin to regret all that you left behind in your path search for meaning and understanding or power. And you turn your attention back on yourself, looking back at your past life, being dismayed at who you are and the decisions you made. And you really begin to question, what the fuck is it all about? So the new path, the spiritual path, is to direct your attention not at what you can do in the world, how to make way in the world, how to conquer the world, or find a niche in the world. Instead, you question all that wanting. And you say to yourself, isn't this kind of a trivial way to live? You rack up a whole bunch of what do I wants? And they're endless, the list. You know that. Sometimes as a take a day off from looking at yourself and feeling yourself, and instead look at what you've done in life and what has it got you. Have you been a slave to dreams of safety or power or money or sex or love? What has it gotten you? So long ago, I talked about everybody's individual inner mansion of a mansion of a dozen or 100 rooms, in each of which you've spent time and attention and care in cultivating certain things in your life, like the pursuit of education, pursuit of power, pursuit of sex. And at some point, you may think, why the hell was I doing that? I got nothing out of doing that, nothing permanent. If anything, I remained agitated about getting something. And I missed out all the other things that I could have gotten. But it's not a zero-sum game, life. Actually, when you pursue anything, you let go of something else. There's no time for 2 or 3 things to do every minute. So waves of change are always occurring in you and everybody else. What do you do with this change? Everything's changing, changing, changing. You're changing, your desires change. The intensity of your life changes. But I think every one of us, to a certain extent, is looking for a changeless place where we can go and either hide or shine. Some place that isn't open for just a few minutes, hours, days, weeks, months, but is there continuously and which is safe and where we can rest. Maybe some of us have never known what rest is like because we've always been doers or seekers, seeking safety, seeking wealth, seeking to satisfy some desire. Do you want to keep doing that? Or have you been ready to change for a long time? It's just that you don't know how. But what I try to instill in people is, instead of focusing on the world and what we want in the world, to just evaluate that desire to do anything in the world. Why are we there? Why are you here? What has driven you to tune in? No, I think all of my doing in the world has ultimately been undermined by the realization there is no permanence. So you understand that whatever you achieve or whatever you gain in transactions, just wait 15 minutes and you'll have a new idea, new place to go, new goals. So I made a point to read people that told me to investigate myself. And when you do that, at first you realize you don't trust yourself and your own understanding. You realize it's been given to you by your parents and by society and by your education you had for 20 years or so. And so you find out you're it. The buck stops with you. It's all up to you to create your own life. And if you're not good at it, you lose. If you're good at it, you win in a Western sort of way of gaining your goals. But in spirituality, we search for who we are and find out there's nothing there. We're empty ghosts in a world of shadows. And we read stuff like, you don't exist, the world doesn't exist. Maybe at first it shocks you, but after a while it becomes a private joke between all the people in satsang that the world doesn't exist. So what difference is it what we do? Doing isn't a part of anything. But if we're honest with ourselves, we know we have inside of ourselves a home state, a resting state. It's just so hard to find it because we have to let go of the world and the objects of the world, even family, in order to fully be able to realize our inner world. We have to give up the outer world for a while. And with that understanding, there's a great sadness because you're going to lose the world in order to gain yourself. But that probably doesn't mean much to a lot of people. But when you're practicing like we do, it does mean something. It means something catastrophic. Because we lose the world and gain ourselves. By that, we focus our attention on our inner world, the inner mansion, all the different things inside. I think I remember one satsang, when one of my teachers, I think it was Maizumi, he said he developed a power as a young monk of being able to watch somebody while they're not watching him. And it was able to make them stop in the middle of the action, to stop dead. And he played along with that for a long while, having developed an observable, checkable city. But somewhere along the line, I hope it was soon thereafter, He decided that was a dumb thing to do. What was it worth? What did he get out of it? He got control over one teeny part of his own external world motivations. Instead, we do a great turnaround. Take our eyes off the world and turn our attention to inside. Because that's the way it's presented to us all the time, is that there are insides and outsides. Insides are called noumenal, or things as they are. Outside is called phenomena, things that appear, or we're talking about the aspects of the appearance of a thing. This is an interesting place where Zen and a lot of other spiritualities get lost. They think if something is an appearance, it has no reality. But the thing in itself, as Immanuel Kant talked about, was always available to us, but only of ourselves. The thing in itself in somebody else, the only thing we can think of is that they're like us, but we can't really know that. But our koan changes from being preoccupied with the world and gaining things in the world to understanding ourselves, gaining power over ourselves. And our interest in the world declines, and for some of us, it's drastically declines. And when you forget the world, an interesting thing takes place. The world forgets about you. It leaves you alone. It doesn't pull and tug at you anymore. And what we do with that is sometimes we get very lonely because we split off from the world and the world has split off from us. So we feel alone. Until we surround ourselves with like-minded people who are more interested in themselves and who and what they are than in gaining things in the world. But that's why usually a spiritual life is prescribed for older people that have had a family, raised a family, have skills, have a career behind them. And finally, when you feel lonely because you no longer are bothered by your kids or by their needs, you have a choice to be bothered about yourself. Who am I? Where am I? Why am I? All that kind of stuff. Now, if you go to Sun San's Sunim, I think he's still alive. I may be wrong. He couldn't be alive. He would be too old. He'd say, forget about what you want to find out. Watch me. Listen to me. See what I can give you. And he gives you a story for life. Because Zen is not simply knowing yourself. It's a way of life. It's a way of silence. It's a way of exploration, just like our earlier life was an exploration of the external world. It becomes exploration and utilizing that need to do something to investigate ourselves, which means our thoughts, our feelings, our bodies. Because 100% of the time, where there's consciousness of a body, and we call it our body because we gradually learn that the inner world of every being is separate. What you're feeling and seeing, I am not privy to. What I'm feeling and seeing, you are not privy to mine. But we practice all kinds of things to either find ourselves or match frequencies with somebody else, because we have become more subtle and we no longer look for candy or gold. We go for depth of experience, dipping below the expectations of almost everybody else in the world. The thing is, we go to Zen master. And he says, fuck you. I don't believe you're ready. And he kicks you out of the ashram. This doesn't really happen, but I'm giving it as an example. And what he means is, you're not yet ready to make the transition to devote you to yourself, to understanding yourself and experiencing yourself at all levels of yourself, rather than the one you've made for yourself and which you're comfortable with. Someone like that has to give up the desire for comfort and fitting in. But he shouldn't be so arrogant as to the obvious intent to rule is contained within that way of being. We have transformed our desire to get things to instead get knowledge of ourselves. But the Zen master says it's not about knowledge at all. It's about relaxing into your own beingness and doing it so often that it becomes your one and only state of mind and body. If you see a advanced Zen monk, they're very quiet. They do not seek your attention. They do not seek to impress you. they hold to themselves. Because most of the time, they are either resting in themselves or trying to rest in themselves. And trying to rest in yourself is hard because rarely are we ever clear enough of the various fantasies we tend to play with that we can pick and choose to do nothing and instead embrace our own experience of ourself. Because when we can rest in our own self, it means we don't have to do anything anymore to satisfy anyone, including ourselves. And that can make us feel a little lonely or scared, like all there is me. I have to do everything. I need a lot of help. I don't think I can do it by myself. So they wall themselves off in a community, a Zen center or some other spiritual center. And every 25 or 30 years, one of these cults destroys themselves or does something else equally stupid. And for a time, nobody wants to have anything to do with spiritual teachers because of their reputation of the ruin they can bring to a lot of people. I think almost every Zen master I've been with has undergone rage about their sexual activities. I didn't get it. Why would people not suspect that the Zen teacher be interested in sex too? Why is transcending sex and getting rid of it seem to be praised so highly in many parts of the spiritual world? But after a while, you begin to find, as a new Zen practitioner, kind of admiration for the monk's stillness and silence, and yet who seems very much set in his course or her course in life. They look at ease, they look at rest, and their voice convinces you of that. It is steady, not whiny. They rarely speak. And they move around almost like shadows, almost like they're not touching the earth. It's only true in one way, and I'm trying to state what that is, but it's not really true in all times and all places. But it's a stage of having attained silence within themselves, and also they are at rest with what they found about themselves. They're no longer driven by the need to improve themselves or prove themselves. No, what it has given them is an ability to just sit around and do nothing and feel great all the time. And yet some of them have a guiding philosophy of how they should be. It's like their old ways of dealing with the world and wanting things from the world is totally uplifted. And instead, the object of our affection is no longer the external world, but the various aspects of who and what we are that we consider to be ourselves. Then dramatic things begin to happen in one's perceptual field and in one's meditations. You can have long meditations where you're no longer conscious of the world and you're only conscious of your own beingness. Or you can focus on the functioning of your body silently. But it leaves us appearing to others as being very self-contained and unneedy, which other people may like, or which they may desire for themselves, the complete rest in feeling and existing rather than knowing. Beingness is so much prior to knowing. You have being from the first moment you're born. You have knowing from maybe the third year on. So the command should not be know thyself. The directive for us should be ourself, which means first you locate it and you acknowledge it and you accept it. And there's a mutual change that goes on till you get to the point you're more or less totally at rest with yourself and the world. And you just fulfill your duties within the monastery. Until you're kicked out or you make up your mind to pursue by yourself of a wandering monk. Still involved in the world. And have picked up a whole new life. And with that, I really want to stop. Just go inside. A wave came over me. It sort of took my thinking away. I turned my attention inward and realized there was so much in me that still wanted attention. Does anybody have any questions or statements? Yes?
Hello, Edgy.
Yes?
Claudine. I just wanted to thank you. At the beginning, I seem to be echoing back to myself.
What's that? I didn't hear that.
I'm echoing back. I keep echoing back to myself when I speak. I don't know why. Oh, it's stopped now. I just wanted to thank you. At the beginning, you said about, so I'm still echoing, about what we want. And that sort of rang a bell that I was really always, I'm often focused on what I want, and it kind of brought me up short. Even though I'm going in, I was still kind of focused on what I want from the outside as well. So I just wanted to say thank you for reminding me.
Forget it.
Yeah.
After you attain yourself, throw it away. Mark, do you have something to say? You always have something to say. You're safe.
One thing I've noticed is that there are times during the day when instead of closing my eyes and going into beingness, I prefer to do it with my eyes open because I'm always pretty much in the state of beingness. And there's times when it actually feels like more comfortable to have my eyes open and than to always close my eyes, even though I'm closing my eyes now. Yeah, and I've always thought that a big part of this is after one becomes sufficiently established in the self, is to integrate that into, ongoing functioning so that one is always in it to an extent. One is always there, and you call it the gap. And I understand why it's called the gap. It's like you're bridging the gap between the old way of being and the new way of being. Like you're still functioning in the world, but your feet are still in beingness. You're not leaving beingness. So also the self is the place where I feel I have maximum variability. So I can at times go very, very, very deep. I can become my sense of self can become very hugely expanded, can become very vivid, very powerful, cycling upon itself with tremendous power and euphoria at times. And at other times, it's more like a slow burn of just being there, just being on that edge, being on that being there. Anyways, that's all I want to say, Edgy. Everything's going well here. I continue to deepen and it's going, I'm happy where I'm at right now. It's good.
Good for you. Brenda, how are you? One thing I've noticed about spiritual groups is there are some people that appear to be very shy. They're worried about what other people think about them, or else they just don't want anybody intruding into who they are. It takes so many different kinds of people on so many different separate paths, so many different degrees of maturity and realization. Well, we got one word out of you. Can we try for 3? Oh, she said she's speaking, but we can't hear her.
Hear me now?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I wanted to ask about, like, my mind is really quiet, and when I focus inward, sort of to the center of my being, like I'm not thinking or anything, but it's like nothing's happening. Like I feel a bit of vibration, but like it's, well, I have to say it's kind of boring because I'm not really thinking, but like nothing's really happening. So could you comment on that?
Well, it happens to everyone someplace. There's not a lot of drama in Zen. People tend to become very matter of fact, focused on where they're going, what they want, who they are. But it takes a while of doing, sitting, where nothing seems to be happening, either inward or outward, where you can get bored. But what you do is you play through that period and continue to mature until that inner world calms down. Because right now, you feel sometimes upset because nothing's happening. Well, that's the point. Nothing happens. Even after a while, nothing happens while it's happening. It's very hard to say what I mean to say by that. But there is a period where you can find those states boring. But when you begin to sit powerfully, all that resistance goes away. And you suddenly tapped into the 220 line instead of the 5-volt line you were with. And you burn more brightly. And you feel life force in you much more strongly. And you feel wonderful. Your body feels wonderful. You feel wonderful. You feel big as a house, bigger. And just relax and rested in yourself. It's when your attention is still weak and unfocused that you just feel the dissatisfaction of nothing happening or being bored with nothing happening. When the happenings spiritually start, after you've given up all those things that used to entertain you. So it's a temporary period that could last a year or 2 years, but it better not last much longer than that, because you won't continue to do it if it does. For me, I don't feel any emotion at all. What I feel is the power of self, how it's the beginning and end of my universe. And I can't worship it, because that would make it separate from me. So instead, I just relax into it and I come alive. Boredom can happen at any time, but it happens to a meditator a lot in the beginning. But when you start feeling these states coming to you of all the different aspects of your mind that present themselves to you, and all the different feelings and attentions to your body, you're in an entirely different world now of owning your own self. And the feelings of boredom go away, replaced by feelings of being stunned by the majesty of yourself in the world. You feel it inside of you. In a way, you become like a Bach concerto, perfectly balanced, perfectly expressive, even when you say nothing. All that I can say is hang in. The period of boredom can be very deep and can last a long time, but generally it doesn't last that long. Something comes along. What about you, Chris?
I guess I'm not bored right now. It's a weird echo thing going on here. When I this is something Bernadette and I have been talking about the last couple of days. When I meditate and relax and close my eyes, I can feel very relaxed and pleasant and open. My mind is gone. But I'm got a lot of distractions in the world, a lot of things that are going on in my life right now. And I get irritated to have to do them. I really like where I was a few weeks ago, and I didn't really have that much to do in the world, and I do it so easily, and like I guess it was in a routine of nothing really happening in my life. And like I said, I would maybe get up and vacuum or something, but it was trivial. I would do it, and you know, but now I'm doing things where I have to use my mind again. I think like we're doing remodeling, and I have to think, and I have to analyze what the construction workers are doing. I have to buy things. I have a lot of analysis to do. And one thing that's come back to me that I haven't experienced in a couple of years, really, since I retired, was when I was working and I would sleep, and in my subconscious, my mind would be working on a problem, and I'd wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning. I'd have the solution. I could see the math in my head, and I'd write it down. But it was exhausting to do that. It was effective in my job, but very exhausting because I couldn't sleep well. And that's come back with these projects and these things I'm doing. Is my mind, even when I'm sleeping, is always churning and solving and working on the problem or the issue. And it helps in the sense that it really does a great job solving these problems in these projects, but it's exhausting. And I'm finding I'm cranky and irritable when I have to use my mind, and I'm using it a lot. I'm using it a lot now, and so is Bernadette. And I mean, I'm not going to speak for her; she can say her own thing, but we clash a bit now because we're both kind of irritable because we both really like just relaxing and being calm and quiet, but we're using our minds a lot, and it pisses us off, and we clash. And it's nothing. It's this kind of trivial stuff, but I'm just feeling, like I said, irritable, and that's where I'm at right now, irritable, and because I have to use my mind a lot, and things are happening that are not in the old routine that was so easy and simple. Get up, take a shower, cup of coffee, go to satsang. We had a very simple life, and it's not simple anymore, and it's really irritating. And that's where I'm at. I feel like someone was saying about maturity, someone was saying about both feet. I feel like I have one foot in each camp, mind and non-mind. I feel like a spiritual and emotional adolescent where I'm all, things are changing in my life and I'm cranky. It reminds me of puberty. And I think maybe that's where I'm at in my spiritual path, is like a spiritual pubescent, that these things are coming to me to learn how to get through this change. And I can see it as, I have a body, I have a house, I have a life. Things are going to need to get done. Like, if I was dead, I wouldn't have to do these things, but I'm not. I'm alive, and I do things in my mind. I can't, it's like I have two worlds, my meditation world and my mind world. And like I said, I get pissed off when I have to go from the calm and quiet to thinking and figuring things out. And no, you did that wrong. This is what the plan says. You need to fix in the work we're doing in the house. And they're constantly. I have a lot of the workers are asking me, "What do you want to do? This or this? Is it And since I don't care, but it really matters. I mean, like you said a second ago, well, is it 110 or 220? It makes a big difference when you plug it in. So I'm doing a lot of that.
So what are you going to choose?
What do you mean?
220 or 110?
Both. Some
Okay.
things are 220, some things are 110, but you have to decide. And the electrician's here, and she wants to know: is the washing machine 110 or 220? I don't have one picked yet. We'll go pick one. I mean, they're not hard problems, but they're problems where I have to think, and it's irritating. But on the other hand, that's life. You have to live. I mean, I have a body. I have to do things. Things have to get done. You have to buy food. You have to go to the doctor. But I find those things irritating.
I do too.
And like I said, it causes conflict with Bernadette and me because we're both irritated about these things, and we sometimes lash out at each other because we're irritated.
But isn't it great to feel those long periods of total relaxation and acceptance? Oh, yeah. It's worth it.
I just want to get back to that. Leave me alone. I just want to relax.
Well, you're learning a great lesson. Don't redecorate anymore.
No.
This is the last one.
Yeah.
From now on, you retire from decorating.
Yes. It was okay when it was theoretical. It was okay. Now that it's reality, it's annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. Advanced students can go in either direction of going deeper and deeper in themselves or going deeper into the misery.
Yes.
They go hand in hand, actually. Sometimes A, sometimes B, sometimes C, and you never expect that one.
What do you mean by go hand in hand? What does that mean?
It means it always happens to somebody or another along the path. They feel they're too involved with the external world and not enough attending to themselves. But later on, you can feel like bored with attending to yourselves because nothing is happening.
Okay.
So you dip into being human and you dip into being the God mind, the peace mind. And you find your appropriate balance after a while. And some choose just to not be disturbed by anything in the world. They so simplify their lives. Mostly they go to monasteries where everything is laid out for them to do. And they don't do anything very complicated. They're like a monk. Yeah. They sit in meditation, they do their job duties during the day, whatever it is, cooking, jikijitsu, management, whatever. But after a while, you find your balance. You've been doing things your entire life, but
you froze. Ed, you're frozen. Oh, he's gone. Bye-bye.
You drove him right
out. I drove him out.
I don't know what the hell happened.
Hey, you're back. Yippee. Hey, but what this period that I'm in reminded me of something you said a couple of years ago, maybe. You said something like, you can go to a monastery or a cave and get really deep and have all these experiences of spirituality, but when you get out in the world, you're a dick. And that's what I feel like right now, is that I can have these experiences, like I've written to you and the energy and lights and whatever, but when I get in the world, sometimes I'm a dick because I get annoyed, and I don't those experiences don't carry over into I'm back in my mind. And so that's what that's what keeps coming back to me is the balance and the integration of all of it. That I don't have that yet. I have this or that, a foot in each camp. Mind, not mind. And that's what it feels like, right? I feel like a split, that I'm in two worlds.
It's temporary. It's temporary. Just keep on attending to yourself as much as possible, even while all that shit is going on in the world. And realize that you will never redecorate again.
Ha!
You've learned something.
Yeah, I
It's
have.
not important. It's not important. Not important enough to spend a large amount of attention to it.
Yeah. It brings
Now
back old people. Go ahead, sorry.
you can attend to your employer's requirements because they're a necessity
Yeah.
for maintaining your life. But something like you pick on yourself to
Yeah.
take up, like a new hobby or something like that, and it gets you off balance because you get back into the old groove of doing and doing and doing
Yes.
instead of being and being and being.
Yes.
And you're fighting going back into doing. You don't
Yes.
want to have anything to do with that. You want Bernadette to take over completely, but she wants the same thing for you.
Exactly. You're exactly right. Like I'll be
So why
saying,
the hell did you get into this place?
oh,
You should have
Because
known
my-
better.
No, my mom needs a place to live. We're making her an apartment in our garage. It's for her.
Okay.
for her. And to be honest, if it, even though this is happening and I'm feeling this irritation and having to do, it still feels like the right thing to do for her. It feels,
Yeah, it is. It is.
it, I don't feel like I don't feel guilt or shame or like I want to do, I really do want to do this, but
Yeah.
there's baggage that comes along with that. And the baggage is I have to think, and that gets me irritated. Although I do still think it's the right thing to do.
It is. Yes, and it's obvious. If some tasks come along, and they always do, usually with accumulating bills and letters that I don't respond to, things build up about the world picking on me.
Yeah.
And I don't want to have anything to do with it. I like doing nothing, and I never would have thought that I would get to the place where I like doing nothing, because I was always a doer in my mind.
Yeah.
So your goal once again is doing nothing, but you keep trying to get away, but they keep pulling you back.
Yes. Yes.
But they won't have that power over you much longer, because you'll learn to shut up and not take off on new things that are going to invest a lot of energy.
Yes.
And in the world, let the world alone.
Yes.
Robert used to say that, let the world alone, and it'll let you alone. Maybe you can hire a governess to take over and run both of you, not giving you a lot to do, just making all the decisions.
Yeah. Right now, I guess that's still us.
Yeah.
And it'll be like sometimes we both, I don't want to make that decision. I don't want to think about that.
Yeah.
But as you've said in the past, you weigh that against the penalty you will suffer down the road for not doing it.
Yeah. Starvation.
Yeah. Yep. Or a hole in the roof.
Yeah. And how much it takes to repair a roof now or to replace the exterior of the roof. It's unbelievable. Yes. Mind-boggling. $20,000.
Oh yeah. But like
so
I
I'm
said,
going to do it. I'm going to do it one patch at a time.
One shingle.
Yeah, one shingle a day.
I'm exhausted. I put up my one shingle.
And I don't know whether you start at the top of the roof, the peak, and go downwards and cover things, or go up and cover things.
So when you get to the last shingle, you got to start all over again because it's never going to be done.
Yeah.
No, it's done, but then the new project starts,
No.
whatever that is.
One shingle at a time. That's perfect.
Uh-oh. It says my battery's running. I'm plugged in, I think. Oh, no. We plugged the computer last night and put the chair in. Well, I'm sorry. I gotta go. Take care. I love you all. I'll see you on Wednesday if you come. Bye-bye. Okay, how do I stop this? I don't know how.